Welcome to the Dubcast and another special guest edition. I'll be talking to Björn Thomasson, the noted Swedish kayak designer, and we discussed the origins of his black pearl design, some of the differences between East and West Greenland kayaks, his interaction with the seabird manufacturer, and quality standards, sizing, later production problems, and eventually the piracy of his designs. Then his more satisfying interaction with the Struer manufacturer, who make the Frey model. Then we talked about the 2-hour kayak build contest he's been involved in a couple times. I had him explain his uncanny ability to endure cold air or cold water longer than the average human being can. At the end, we were talking about his judging of the Swedish rolling competition for the last year and coming up this year. So this runs about 45 minutes. All right, today is August 2nd, 2024, and I am in Sweden, in the town of Lund. Did I say that right?
Yes, sounds quite right.
And I'm talking to Björn Thomasson, who I've mentioned a number of times on the Dubcast with Dubside. So it's a great honor to have you as a special guest on my show.
Thank you, and welcome to Sweden.
Thank you. So you primarily, I guess most noteworthy, at least in my podcast, as the designer of the Black Pearl kayak.
Yeah, can imagine that.
Tell me how you came up with that idea and how that got started.
I started with, I had problems from an old big competition racing paddle. I got elbow and wrist problems. So and in that, so I lay off paddling totally for a month or two in that. And then on Stockholm many years ago, I met Johan Wagner, who paddled a Greenland paddle, and I thought it looked so elegant and so efficient. I was totally amazed by that. I was totally blown away. So I went directly home and carved out my own paddle and started that. And after a very short time, I realized the potential of such a paddle. And then I thought that if that's so good, what would a Greenland kayak do? So I set about developing the Black Pearl.
So you've been paddling for quite some time by then?
30 years, 25, 30 years.
That's quite some time.
Yeah, it is.
So when you carved this paddle out, what time period, what year was that?
Time flies. I don't remember. 15, 20 years ago, something like that. So I've been using a Greenland paddle for a very long time now.
Yeah.
And only that. I don't wobble.
Okay. And so developing the Black Pearl kayak, how did that go? So you discovered the paddle now, so now you're using the Greenland paddles.
Yeah.
How do we get to the kayak?
I used some of the drawings in what's it called? The Bible then. Canoes and Kayaks of the North or something like that. There were a lot of drawings there that
David Zimmerli?
No. I should have checked it before. I don't remember now. Yeah. So I started with a drawing that is falsely known as Southeast Greenland kayak, which has been corrected in later editions of that one.
So what is it actually then?
It was an East Greenland kayak.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there are no kayaks on that coast strip where
the Southeast
Chappelle.
David Chappelle.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So I used that and tweaked it to my bodily measurements. Approximately like the Greenlanders do. I mean, 3 times the arm span and all those anthropometrical measurements. And that's the start.
Okay.
And I built the deck slightly low, so the first I couldn't get in it, so I have to cut the deck and glue in small wedges to lift it.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm in the same situation now. My black pearl is over there. I can't get in it.
Oh yeah.
But now it's my body that has changed.
Uh-huh.
So I was very pleased with that kayak, and I used it very much for the 2-3 first years, even as a touring kayak.
Okay.
So I turned out very good. And then Seabird contacted me and wondered if they could be allowed to build it, construct it.
So before we get to that,
Yep.
the difference between what they consider East Greenland design of kayaks and West Greenland, how would you describe that?
I would say that the East Greenland kayaks are the lower slightly is longer. It's a slightly flatter bottom and more straight side. What's called side panels.
Yeah. The terminology I've learned is the flare.
Yeah.
Is
right.
So there's more flare in an East Greenland kayak, right? Because they're straight up and down in West Greenland, like from gunnel to chine, or more to vertical, and then the East Greenland they're more.
Yeah,
flared out. Is that correct?
I think so, but it's hard to say because the difference in both locations are so much. They meet somewhere in the middle sometimes.
All right.
But
and the other thing, an East Greenland is more of a straight line across the top, which is, they call that the shear.
Yeah.
So you've got less shear in East Greenland design.
Yeah.
And especially the early West Greenland they're more curved up at the ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the East Greenland is quite often S-shaped slightly.
S-shape?
In the shear. The shear is
in the
flat
shear.
midship and then go up and then straighten out towards the stem.
All right. So how does that manifest itself in how the kayaks perform?
My impression is that the East Greenland kayaks are easier to roll, slightly faster. But that is just my experience of very few specimens I've tried.
Okay.
So there are other people who knows much more about that than I do.
I mean, my very basic understanding is in terms of the conditions you encounter in those two locations, there's a lot more ice in East Greenland, in which I've been told that gives you still get all the wind, but you don't get as many waves because the ice dampens it out, to be very general.
Seems fair to say.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking about also is that the development of kayaks seemed to have stopped in East Greenland earlier than in West Greenland. West Greenland was more open to influences from other locations.
Okay.
So when it came to those rolling competitions, when they started again after had been abandoned for many years, you found some inspiration from the East Greenland kayaks to those that were rolling kayaks on the western coast as well.
All right, say that again. I didn't quite follow. You find?
I think the West Greenland kayaks have developed in many directions.
Okay.
But then they found the East Greenland, who have been cut off slightly for many decades. There were the old East Greenland kayaks still in existence, and they proved to be very good to use in rolling competitions. So we have an influence from east to west to those rolling competitions, rolling kayaks that are used mostly in the competitions now.
Uh-huh. All right. So now we get to Seabird wanted to make your Black Pearl as a production kayak.
Yep.
So you had this design for several years, and people were building their own versions of it, and you had the plans available.
And they were very popular. So
yes, they were. Yeah. And so when Seabird decided to make it in was it fiberglass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I said flat no.
You said no.
Yes.
All right. You did not want them to produce it.
No, my impression of Seabird at that time was that they were making quite bad kayaks. They were making recreational kayaks for...
Just seeing what they had already put on the market didn't impress you.
Yes.
Okay.
But he was very insistent, and he promised me that the quality would be exactly and would not change anything from the
Seabird is based where?
Yeah, that is a good question.
Okay.
It's based in Estland, Norway, and in China.
Okay.
They have the executives in Norway, the economy in Estland, and the manufacturing in China.
Iceland.
Iceland?
No,
Estland. Estonia.
Estonia.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Estonia, Norway, and China.
Mm.
All right.
So he promised that nothing would be changed. He even would make the shear exactly as on the wooden kayaks. There's no visible connection between them. Beautifully made. And he also made those canals for line hardware that I use on all my kayaks.
The deck lines. On those,
exactly.
Okay.
So, in the end I said, okay, let's try it.
All right.
And I was very satisfied with the result. So beautiful kayaks, they were very well made.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a success.
What would you say are some of the issues that could arise when you're taking a one-time skin-on-frame build and making a production kayak out of it? Are there certain problems that come up or issues that you have to address?
No, I don't think so. The problem is, of course, that the skin-on-frame kayaks are made anthropometrically after your body. You build it around your body, so you have not 1, 2, or 3 sizes. You have as many sizes of kayaks as you have paddlers who build them.
Yeah.
And when you go in production, of course, you have to have at a maximum 2 sizes or something like that, because every mold is expensive to make.
So the Black Pearl was then made in what, 2 different versions? Or 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Low volume and high volume, they would call it.
All right. But other than that, everything that they did was satisfactory?
Yes, I was very happy from the start with the Black Pearl and with the few other kayaks they made. Problems came later.
Okay.
But I was amazed by the process, because at other times I made such decisions. It's always that my drawings get manipulated all the time. They have the engineer says, we can't build it like that. Could you smooth it out? And
that's what I was imagining.
Yeah. Then come the economists and say, that's too expensive. It can't be sold. Can we switch that gear? Yeah. And then come the marketing people say, but it don't look like people expect it to look.
It's quite a gauntlet of people to go through.
Yes. Yeah. In that, it was quite smooth. No changes at all.
Wow.
It's built exactly.
But the Black Pearl before then had developed a reputation on its own
So
that I'm sure that helped.
And I learned later that Seabird had tried to make their own version of it.
Like stealing it.
Stealing it, yes.
Okay.
And it was a quite horrible kayak. I won't talk about it anymore because that's forgotten.
All right.
I learned that much later.
Yeah. Now, somewhere in this picture, our friend Petrus, who's not far from here in relative terms, was making these as wood panel kit form. Is that?
Yeah, I started. I think it came a little later, because
this was after Seabird or before Seabird?
Yeah, after Seabird. I think that because he built them in strip at first.
He did what?
Strip building.
Strip build. Okay.
For many years.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So switching over to plywood, then you must have software to convert to the panels to flat panels, extended panels. Okay. And you didn't have that until quite late.
All right.
So it came after Seabird. I'm quite sure of that.
All right. So the cost of a Seabird kayak is that relatively inexpensive? Or are you satisfied with what they went for?
The going rates for Seabird kayaks, normally it is a quite expensive kayak, due to they followed my drawing exactly.
All right.
But then later it turned out that Seabird perhaps didn't have the economic muscles or the connection to that part of the kayaking community that was interested in Black Pearl. So it was slightly not so sold, not so much.
How do you mean?
Their customers were after cheap kayaks, and they sold to hotels and renterers around the world, and glassy shores with kayaks that you take a 1 hour tour. That was their main customers. So they had found it very difficult to reach the the hardcore paddlers that would be interested in the black pearl.
Huh. Okay. So then, some unfortunate things happened, or some.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they resided in China and had their own factory, it was all well. But then they, for the different reasons, moved back to Estonia.
Okay.
And let the Chinese crew take care of the factory. And what happened, I'm not quite sure of it, but the quality dropped radically.
So everything was being done in China, and then it got split up to the offices in Estonia and still production in China. And that's when
those the leaders of the company moved back to Estonia.
Okay.
So they were not at the factory anymore and could check the control the quality.
Right.
So there were a lot of problems. There were kayaks that leaks.
So your beautiful black pearl design started coming out of production bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheap, and they leaked, and hardware came loose, and such things. And the seats in one of them sat so close to the bottom that it shaved away on the bottom. And this was a disaster.
Wow. So did you take some action there? What happened?
Oh yes, I was talking to them all the time, and I was mad. I was really mad for that. And they got so tired of me that we broke contacts.
Yeah. Wow.
So now it is actually a piracy company, because they still build my kayaks, but without any payment.
Originally you had an agreement with royalties.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
And they broke that.
So they broke that.
Yeah.
Now I've heard that tale before from other people who design kayaks. It seems to be a common phenomenon in the business, unfortunately.
Yeah, talk to Johan Wirsén, for instance.
Yeah.
been there, done that.
Yeah. All right.
And you can't get at them because there is that thing that's called the economic Chinese wall. You can't penetrate that and get to the roots of such things.
Yeah, so they just do it, and they
just
can get
do
away
it.
with it.
I can't do anything about it.
Wow. So at this point, in 2024, are they still making?
Yep.
Are they calling it the Black Pearl?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I have had help with economic help with that, but they can't do anything in China.
The help in order to make it right
to get them to pay the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
There's lots of costs. But I don't mind, because during the first years when the royalty they paid me is more than enough to cover my costs for the work I did for them. So in that case, I'm satisfied.
Right.
But I'm still mad at them for the piracy.
Yeah. It's not hurting you financially per se, but it's just annoying that was done.
Extremely annoying. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So are you still designing any kayaks now, or any projects like that?
Yes, I am. I have projects all the time.
Okay.
But there's a couple of now here up in Scandinavia that I can't talk about because it's in the starting up. But I have a Denmark Struer kayaks are building Frey and Pantera on the
Frey kayak. Yeah, that was.
That is, I might say, my commercial success, the big one.
Okay. Yeah, that one rolls quite well.
That's beautiful in all respects.
Yeah.
And it was quite fun because it started with Kim Kemp, that is the owner of Struer boats in Denmark.
It's
Struer is
spell that for me.
S-T-R-U-E-R.
S-T-R-U-E-R. Okay.
They are famous for building competition kayaks in thin molded veneer during the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Okay.
He stood at his shop when I was there one time, and he stood and looked at the kayaks on the roof on the roads that cars that passed, and said, "Oops, that's another Frey. Oops, and that's another Frey again."
Yeah.
And after a couple of hours, said, "We got to build that kayak." There was a wooden Frey that passed.
Okay.
So he saw the potential, and that was the second time I experienced that someone is interested in taking the kayak as drawn exactly and produce it without any changes at all. And that became a huge success, the Frey.
And is that relationship still good now?
Oh,
still
yes.
happy with
It's
them?
rolling.
Wow, nice. That's, I guess, the best revenge for the seabird folks.
Yeah, you could say that in a way.
Very nice.
And then, of course, I've taken back those designs that they stole, in the respect that I've taken them back, I've improved them, modernized it, and sell them as plans for wooden strip building now, in an improved version.
Okay.
Some cases quite improved.
So specifically, how do you improve that?
Apart from the black pearl, I got into this mess of everyone in the production line wanted to change small things, make it cheaper, make it easier to manufacture.
Okay.
And all those I couldn't iron out and go back to the original design. So if you buy one of those kayaks from me, you get the original idea, not the simplified version.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the 2-hour kayak build contest that was innovated, I think, in Stockholm.
Yeah.
Which you've been to many. I don't know if you've been to that every year. Or
no, just 2 times.
Yeah. Okay. I've attended most of those. And
Yeah,
it was
I can imagine.
an idea of Anders Stugesson, who's been a guest on my podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, what's your experience in that, Bill? I mean, there's some things you can do that you can take from regular kayak building and apply to the 2-hour version, and other ones that I don't think it works that way. But tell me how you found that.
Yeah, the first time I think it was incredibly fun because what we built there was in essence a black pearl.
Okay.
I used practically everything from black pearl, the dimensions and all that.
Yeah.
And that time I think we have thin polyethylene plastic that you tape around it. It works wonderfully that time.
But you can get the black pearl shape you want using duct tape and little pieces of wood?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's just like on Greenland. You wooden stick and you have sealskin.
All right.
I had wooden sticks and plastic and tape.
Within 2 hours you were able to make it
Yes.
work. Wow, that's very
And
good.
I did, that first time I did the design, and then we were, I don't remember, 4 or 5 people who helped putting it together.
And that design was pretty much just in your head?
Yes.
Okay, and you could just say, cut it this long and make it this. Okay. Wow. So did that kayak win the contest?
Yes, it did.
Yes. Uh-huh. All right.
It's quite a lot ahead of the others. Second time wasn't at all that good.
What happened then?
You know, because you sat in the kayak.
I'm trying to remember now how that went.
The first thing is that they had found some other plastic materials who were so weak that you could point your finger through it.
Yeah,
so you have to wrap it, I think, 4 or 5 layers to get it reasonably tight. And all kayaks leaks water all the time. Yeah. And I made a mistake also because I lowered the deck slightly. And it turned out it got so low that I couldn't go into the kayak.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we have you did the competition paddling in it.
Yeah. Well, as the rules got more and more advanced because the kayaks were getting better and better. So then originally it was like one person would paddle it. Then it was like 3 people have to paddle it and change it around. So it was
much of that.
Other considerations.
And that time my, if I may say so, design didn't won because the other team built a beautiful Bidarka.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, these things happen.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that a very educational exercise because when the kayaks were done, before they went into the water, you could just look at them. Yeah. And you could gain a lot by thinking, predicting which one would do better or worse. And just, even if you're not an experienced kayak builder, just looking at them and looking at the kayaks you're familiar with, seeing, and you can just see the funny shape and you just think, I don't think that kayak's going to do very well.
I did that also. I mean, the first time I looked at the other kayaks and I saw one of them had a straight keel. I predicted that is not possible to steer.
Okay,
and that's right, because he veered all over the place. Yeah. He had hardly get to the goal. And I don't remember now, but I saw something with the other third participant also that, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, in the U.S. they've done that idea a number of times that with variations on it. There was one that they said you can. It's not 2 hours. You can work on it all night. And there were guys up with headlamps on, working into the wee hours trying to get it just right.
Mm.
And then I don't know if you were there the year that Anders innovated. He gave us a little drill and some pegs, so we could actually peg things.
Yeah.
And then there was other little changes he made. So it evolved over time. But since that,
but I think that first time, one of the advantages with that is the same as you are going to make an illustration and you start sketching. And when you have reached a very good sketch and try to make the original, you always lose something on the way. It's hard to improve on a sketch.
Okay.
So I think the haste, those 2 hours, you can't fiddle around with small details. You have to get it right very quickly.
You got that time limit. Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Well, also at that Stockya event, I noticed that in teaching rolling, we would, standing in the water next to people. And this is on the coast of Norway.
Yep.
And the water, to me anyway, is really cold. It doesn't seem to bother you.
No, not the slightest.
How is that? How do you work that?
I thought about that because in my canoe club, people are aware that I never get cold.
Yeah.
I can sit in a t-shirt summer nights when all the others have fleece vests and things around. I simply don't get cold. And I think perhaps it's like that when you're little. I remember myself standing in the water and freezing like hell before my parents pulled me up. I think now small kids, I see them all the time in lambskin costumes, and covers and clothes in warm warehouses where they're red in the faces and they're shouting. And I want to tell the parents, can't you see he's overheated? Don't destroy his temperature control in the body.
Okay.
I didn't that. I freezed.
Uh-huh.
I think you can train that. You can train it.
Okay.
Like all bodily functions.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it, as a physiotherapist say.
Right.
So, you learn techniques. You can relaxing. If you pull up the shoulders and tensioning the muscles, then you always freeze.
Okay.
Can you relax totally? That's no problem.
Huh.
And then, of course, I swim in the winter all the time as well. I sleep outside.
You swim in the winter and you sleep
time.
outside. All right.
I do that.
So when in a warm, hot environment, you don't find that uncomfortable?
No.
All right.
I mean, we always have a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And we can work on expanding it, or we can relax from take clothes on as the first sign of freezing or such things. Then you reduce your comfort zone year after year.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of an excerpt from, I think, Drake's World Tour, 1500, 1600 or something like that.
Sir Francis Drake you're talking about?
Sir Francis Drake,
Okay.
yes. He came down to the Cape Horn, Magellan's Sound.
Okay.
And the sailors, in his book, sailors got on shore and it was 0 degrees in the air and snow was... and they made a gigantic fire and huddled close to it. And then I saw the natives, almost naked, smeared with pig fat, sitting, pulling away 10 meters because they thought it was incredibly hot close to the fire. So, and I thought about that. You train to do that thing.
Yeah.
And there are many other things associated with that. I have paddling colleagues that when they're out paddling in a really hot summer day, for instance, they like to gulp down a pint of ice cold beverage or something like that. Okay. And I think that's crazy, because what happens when you get 0 degrees or 10 degrees beverage in the stomach, the body reacts to danger, danger, danger. There is low temperature, and metabolism goes up to
okay.
correct that, which means that after 10 minutes they're flowing of sweat and are experiencing horrible
Sweat,
heat.
Yeah. Okay.
While I rather take sounds crazy, but a warm cup of tea in that condition,
Wow.
which go down there, is warm, and the body slows down the metabolism. No sweat. I'm enjoying the beautiful summer with the other. It's tormented in the hellish heat they have produced for themselves. So there's a lot of those things.
All right.
The body is a fantastic organism when adaptation and works as a server. The things you do, you become better what it is. Mind or body, doesn't matter.
All right. Very good. In the last couple of years, they've had a Swedish rolling competition,
Yeah,
and you've been the judge at that competition.
yes.
So everywhere I see different competitions being held, you can't totally duplicate what they do in Greenland because they're different situations. I mean, it's pointless to try.
Yeah.
So tell me how your competitions go. What in terms of the rules, in terms of
The ambition was from the start to replicate as much as possible the Greenlandic concept.
okay,
And
starting with the list of Greenland rolls.
Oh yes, exactly. Yes,
Okay.
and all the rules that is in Greenland as well.
Okay.
Every bit of them. But there are of course certain things that it's no use duplicating because they haven't so much to do with paddling. They're more cultural on Greenland. So there are small.
So we talking about like the walrus pull?
Walrus pull is out.
Yeah.
And we have a suggestion there that you give the result with and without the walrus pull, so it will be comparable to other nations as well. So when you release the result,
the result.
you have the numbers with or without the walrus pull, because then you can compare the rest with the rest of the world.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are other things as well. There is you can't open the spray deck on Greenland.
Correct.
And that is pointless in Swedish. If one competitor wants to waste time on opening and closing his cockpit, it doesn't matter because that is related to the ice cold water in Greenland. It is danger. It isn't here.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can discuss those things.
All right. And you still give people 30 minutes to do their routine?
Yes.
Right. And you get a second try with each roll?
Yeah. All that, and the second try is with points deducted.
Yeah, a point off.
So we follow the Greenland as close as possible to make it comparable.
Uh-huh.
And we have a few things also. We say that if you start underwater upside down paddling within the 30 minutes, then it is all the meters are counted, even if it goes beyond 30 minutes, because it would be pointless to say that at that point 30 minutes got what stretches that. So starting before the signal is okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've thought about things like that. In the ropes, there's another situation where that could come into play, but where you hang on your chin as long as you can. If it goes over the clock, then you add to the drama there. But I can see, for those always looking for a way to game things, trying, using all your time you can and just starting to go under when the clock goes, because then you got the rest of the time to keep paddling upside down. That gets.
And there is another thing also, because if you cut it when the 30 minutes gone, then you punish those who can paddle very long stretches underwater. Yeah, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah. To measure how far they've gone, how do you do that?
We had a rope with meter marks on it, so a thin line. They paddle away, and we just.
Oh, you tie it to the end of their kayak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a log line.
Yeah,
500 years ago.
That innovation came in Greenland. When I.
Okay. Yeah.
They used to do. They had the marker for the harpoon throw would be set up on floats, and you had to paddle, parallel to that,
Yeah,
and they
right.
which means you had to go in a straight line. Otherwise, if you veered off the side, it wouldn't count. But one year, one of the organizers just came up with this idea: let's tie a string to it and do it that way, and then it just kind of took off like that. Although there were issues with the string getting tangled up while people were paddling fast and not being able to pay out enough time. But they worked through some of that.
We were very thorough with that to lay it in loops like that, so nothing would happen.
So what's the scoring on that? Is it how many points?
Actually, I don't remember.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Nobody remember. Yeah, it's.
No.
I'm the same way. The original one, if I'm thinking correctly, it was a point. I think it was like 2 points for the first 3 meters, and a point for every 2 meters after that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was about the time they had they tie the string on the end. One of the organizers, he couldn't remember either, so he said it's a point per meter. So they made it a point per meter for a couple of years, which changes. That almost doubles your effective score for that exercise, which changes quite a bit. And then I think they went back to the 1.2 per 2 meters, whatever. It's still so hard to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this year they went back to that. They changed the rules. They changed some of the rope rules and the rolling rules. They might have made some other changes. I don't even remember what they were. I'll have to get that eventually. But the little adjustments like that.
Yeah.
But I mean overall it's still a rolling competition.
Yeah,
and so
it is.
So you've had good participation at this Swedish.
It was extremely good last year. I've only done it once. It's the first last year, and the next is coming now in a couple of weeks in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
It was extremely. I mean, David Teng was up in.
Yes, I'm hoping to talk to David Teng in a couple of weeks.
I think he had the best results ever recorded, or on par with the best result. Yeah. I was amazed.
Yeah.
And he had lots of time.
If you're adding on, for comparison, a walrus pull score, and I could see he might have broken the record. But it did.
I think so too.
And do you do, just to get into every last little detail, the speed rolling?
Yeah.
There's forward storm speed rolls and layback speed rolls.
Yes.
That's done on both sides?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because that in the Danish championship, they were only doing one side of that for a while. Just was whatever. That's how it happened.
I'm not quite sure on that either, because I read up to all the rules. We established the rules for the first competition.
Okay.
And I have to admit, I will read up on those rules now the second time as well to have them.
Yeah.
But I think the paddling under, I think that we had no points at all for the first 3 meters, and then 1 per meter or something like that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I still feel that it would be could be a more entertaining event to shorten the time.
Mm-hmm.
And at my argument is that we did that one year at the Danish competition.
Mm-hmm.
We made it 15 minutes.
Okay.
And David Techner and some of the other guys, and they all just practiced harder, learned all the moves. They were doing like 12, 13, 14 minutes finish. They had time left over in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, in Greenland, I talked to Ida Nielsen, who's been competing, and she did not agree with that at all. She said she had her own argument about that.
David Teng was also, he might have done it in 15 minutes as well in Stockholm last year, because he took a lot of poses in the middle of it.
Took a lot of...
Took a pose. He just relaxed for a bit
because
he had plenty of time. And one time he asked, I don't remember which role he did, but he asked permission to out of competition try a new variation of it.
Oh, this is on video, right?
It is.
I saw that.
And
I looked at that.
And I said, somewhat reluctantly, I said, I can see why not, but it's on your own time, and no points, of course. Yeah. And he does something upside down on helicopter with the paddle and such things. And then when he should do the upside down paddling, I think he rested 7-8 minutes before he started, because he had that much time. Yeah. So I think it's a good idea as well. Instead of adding even more rolls,
Yeah.
you could get the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Because 30 minutes for people to sit and watch the whole thing is a long time. If you've got a day of multiple people rolling and only one or just two judging stations, it's just such a long thing. If you can chop that down a bit, it
might
gets
be a
more
good idea.
entertaining. Yeah.
There is, I think, a reason that I was chosen to be the judge, because in Sweden we have two centra for rolling, Stockholm and Gothenburg.
Okay.
And those are fierce competition between those two. So I think I got in there because I was neutral. I could be respected by both.
You're
because
in the middle.
I can't do a third of those rolls nowadays.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's. I'm glad to hear that there's that much enthusiasm for it. And
yes.
I've been in the U.S. We've tried at various times to do rolling competitions on various kind of levels, and sometimes they've had lasted for a couple of years, but they've never been enough of a real critical mass to keep it going for a long period of time. So I'm encouraged to see that.
Yeah, it's incredibly nice. And there were very ambitious from the competition committee, because first it was called Swedish mastership. We must have it 3 years in a row before it could be called what's called. I lost the
championship,
name.
mastership.
Yeah. They had to level below in 3 years to convince the Swedish canoe organization that it was a viable competition.
Okay.
But it was so well planned and well done, so we got there the year 2.
Okay.
So it is a Swedish mastership now.
Yeah. Oh, very good. So the next one takes place in a couple weeks from now?
A couple of weeks from now, up in Gothenburg.
All right, and you'll be judging?
Yes.
All right.
They were happy with me last year.
And David Tang will be defending his title, I suppose?
Yep.
All right. Are there any other contenders on the...
There were a few that was very close to him, so he's not...
I watched it, and I noticed that Jan David Jensen was missing some things I've seen him do before, so he hadn't quite practiced as hard as David Tang, I suppose.
No.
Yeah.
No, David is incredibly ambitious with this.
Is there a separate women's and men's division?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the top woman last year?
It was no one I knew from before, so I don't have a name for it.
All right. And they were getting over 300 points?
Yeah, I think the winner was over 300.
Nice. Now, is there a focus among these people to go to Greenland, or this competition is its own thing? I know it's expensive and it's a big endeavor, but I'm almost getting the sense that now that there are these competitions outside of Greenland, that people are happy to excel at that and win that, and that there's not necessarily the expectation that you have to go to Greenland if you win.
I didn't pick up any such ambitions or tendencies. No one talked about going to Greenland among the Swedish. I think that's more in Denmark. They have a natural exchange with Greenland, had for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But there is a possibility, Sweden also, but I didn't hear anything.
If these get big enough, I could see that Greenlanders wanting to come, to represent their country at these things.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Yeah. I talked to one of the past presidents of Kanakatufiat had felt very strong. He said, we want to know about competitions being held outside of Greenland so we can come represent people there. But he hasn't been the president for quite some time, so there's different things going on there.
That would have been very interesting to have an open class also.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been very nice to sit here in your backyard with the ambient sounds around us.
On a beautiful summer's evening.
Yes, indeed.
Warm, hot.
All right. Well, I'm hoping to come back through next year. I'll go to Greenland next year and probably come back through Sweden. So maybe we'll talk again. And good luck with this competition.
Yeah. Do my best.
All right.
As a judge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And there you have Björn Thomasson. Check out his website, thomassondesign.com. And although he's Swedish, he spells his name, sounds more like the English spelling of S-O-N. So it's THOMASSONDESIGN.com. This interview was recorded August 2nd, 2024, at his home in the backyard in the town of Lund in South Sweden. Thank you for listening to the Dubcast with Dubside.